Greetings, good gentles. I am Baroness Aurelia of Ashton, and I hail from the kingdom of Caid. And yet my performance today has at its roots great respect for and a desire to honor the bards of ANSTEORRA, who so impressed me at 25th year celebration held in that fair kingdom. One in particular, Master Cadfan ap Morgan Godrudd, wrote and performed a piece so evocative that I asked for a copy of it and for permission to perform it, which he kindly granted. Now I know not whether the piece is still performed in ANSTEORRA, some 30 years later, but I wish to bring it to the notice of the known world, for the tale it tells is so worthy of remembering, as are the words of the one who told the tale, titled A True History of the 24th ANSTEORRAN Crown Tournament, written by Master Cadfan ap Morgan Godrudd. We who revere the past often feel that history is only that which has gone before. Yet in the Shire of Emerald Keep, called in the vulgar tongue Waco, Texas, on the 10th day of November, Anno Societatis 25, history was not past, but present, forged living before the very eyes of a fortunate few, who in years hence will be able to say proudly, I was there. For in that place and on that day was chosen, by virtue of high and noble deeds on the field of battle, the first queen by right of arms in the history of the known world. The day began with an early royal court. A bitterly cold night had given way to a surprisingly warm morning as the 28 entrants to the crown lists took the solemn sword oath, promising to rule faithfully and justly as King and Queen of ANSTEORRA, should fate so deign to grant them victory that day. His Majesty Patrick then addressed the combatants and the populace at large, enjoining them to fight their best, and declaring in the severest terms that the crown would not countenance any but the highest standards of conduct on the field. And even as court ended, right so the combatants took the field, for the day was short so late in the year, and with each bout being fought best 2 of 3, a long list lay ahead. 3 fighters from my home shire of Lochsollier entered the field that day. Lord Bors of Lothian, Lord Galen Edwin von Kirschenbauer, and Sir Rurik Iverson. All acquitted themselves nobly, with Sir Rurik reaching the semi-finals before falling to his Grace Duke Charles Inman MacMore. No shame was there in that, for his Grace is widely known as one of the most formidable men-at-arms in the entire known world. Still he fell in turn to Duke Hector Philip Martel in the next to last bout of the day. That passage at arms will not soon be forgotten by any who witnessed it. On the one hand stood Duke Inman, the black of his surcoat and armor, relieved only by the unstained white of his newly regained belt. On the other, Duke Hector, resplendent in crimson and gold, his polished helm gleaming in the light of the westering sun. And when the battle was joined, the two gave such blows as have not been felt since Roland fought at Roncevaux. Yet in the end, Duke Hector stood triumphant, having won the right to face his lady, Duchess Sir Rowan Beatrice von Kampfer, in the final bout. Now, if the bout between Hector and Inman was the stuff of legend, then that between Hector and Rowan was the stuff of myth. Never have I seen 2 opponents more puissant or more equally matched in courage, prowess, noble bearing, and chivalry. Every blow was as graceful as the salmon's leap, at least every one that was not too swift for the eye to follow. The first fall was won by Sir Rowan, the second by Sir Hector, and then the crown of ANSTEORRA hung in the balance, to be swung one way or the other by the weight of a single blow. The sun was but a hand's breadth above the horizon as the two circled and feinted, seeking an opening in defenses each had helped the other build, and build well. Throughout all the assembled populace, neither man nor woman spoke, or moved, or seemed to as much as breathe. Even the very wind was still. At last a flurry of blows left Sir Hector on his knees, and the crowd as one drew breath. Then Sir Rowan did, as befit a good and worthy knight, and offered her opponent the opportunity to yield. This did Sir Hector graciously refuse, and honor his lady greatly thereby, for he would not have bestowed upon her an honor which all might not say she had won fairly, and not through favor or influence. And so it was that in a final exchange of buffets, Duke Sir Hector Philip Martel was at last felled to earth, and her Grace Duchess Sir Rowan Beatrice von Camphor came to her kingdom by the strength of her own right arm. At this the crowd, silent as stones but a moment before, rent the very hills with their cheering. The knights who had stood to marshal in the field rushed to embrace her, ceding first place to her lord, of course, and then proceeded to bear her around the field on their shoulders, to the wild acclaim of the populace. Midway through this boisterous procession, the realization of what she had accomplished seemed to finally hit her, for then she raised her arms in triumphant benediction and acknowledged the cheers of her people with that sparkling and carefree laughter ANSTEORRA has come to know in her and love. Then came their squires into the field bearing water, and the heathen liquors of that renegade Moor, Jose Cuervo, followed by the great officers and the heralds and the well-wishers and the favor-seekers and all the retinue that longeth to a sovereign. And the crown declared the court would follow immediately after the pelicans and laurel circles. And so the machinery of state, after a single giddy pause, ground reassuringly onward once more. Court was held on the list field that evening, bathed in the golden glow of torchlight, and wreathed with the frosty breath of the multitudes, for it had once more grown quite cold. Sir Rowan was invested as Principessa ANSTEORRAE, with all due ceremony, and then called for Sir Hector, in order to bestow upon him the prince's coronet. Yet, as Hector approached the throne, so also did the members of the most noble order of the Pelican, who petitioned the crown that his grace be made a member of their order for his long and worthy service as knight marshal to ANSTEORRA. When King Patrick asked his grace, "Are you worthy to receive this honor?" Hector replied, "This is a question which I may never answer yes. But if these good gentles," and here he bowed to the assembled pelicans, "ask that it be done, who am I to say no?" At which all agreed that this was a man fair-spoken, wise, and noble. At which all agreed that he was eminently worthy of all his honors and more. And so the crown granted the pelican's request, and raised Sir Hector to that estimable order. Then did Princess Rowan draw Sir Hector unto her, and in fair and loving words offered him the coronet, as he had done so twice to her, asking him if he would rule by her side as her equal in matters of state, as he already was in matters of love. To absolutely no one's surprise, his grace most readily assented. As Princess Rowan placed the circlet upon his brow, the populace loudly hailed the new heirs to the Black Star's throne. And afterwards it was said that there could not have been chosen a better sovereign or a better consort in all the known world. Thus did her Grace, Duchess Rowan Beatrice von Kampfer, Knight, win by right of arms the crown of ANSTEORRA. And that all these things are true attests Master Cadfan ap Morgan Godrudd, companion to the Order of the Laurel and premier bard of ANSTEORRA, who witnessed them that day, and by whose hand this account is writ. Vivat Rex, vivat Regina, vivat ANSTEORRA.